Today in Granny's Kitchen we're going to make Scottish breakfast morning rolls. For this recipe we need 600 grams of strong bread flour, which I'm just going to add into that. And I'm also going to add just a tiny little bit of butter because you work it through roughly about 25 grams, just a tiny little bit, just to work this through the flour to begin with. Now, as soon as I get this flour ready, I'm going to put the salt in the flour, and then I'm going to measure out the yeast, which is roughly 2 teaspoons, 7 grams of yeast, and 2 teaspoons of sugar. So the actual bread mix itself, I'm using strong white flour. You can actually mix the flour. You can actually have a proportion of strong white and all-purpose, just ordinary plain flour. But this morning I'm just going to try this with the bread flour. Okay, so I'm just rubbing through that tiny little bit of butter. You don't really need to put the butter in it. You can actually make them without the butter, or you can maybe add a tablespoon of olive oil. There are various recipes. Sometimes it just takes a little while to get to your own particular taste. Okay, so to that mixture, I'm going to add 1.5 of salt, just 1.5 there of salt. Okay, just mix that through. And I'm using fast action yeast, and I'm going to put in my 2 teaspoons of that into a separate bowl, because to that I'm going to add my 2 teaspoons of caster sugar. Okay, the sugar and the yeast will be fast actioning once I get the fluid in. Now I've got 200 mils of milk, and it needs to be tepid, kind of lukewarm. So I'm now going to top it up with 200 mils of boiling water. So that's 400 mils of fluid altogether. And just by topping it up like that, it should be not too hot. If it's too hot, obviously you're going to kill the action of your yeast straight away. Now I've already preheated my oven because it has to be really hot, about 230 degrees for a fan oven, because these rolls will be fast cooking. Okay, once you've got your tepid fluid, just put a little into that yeast mixture, because that's your salt and your yeast, and you just make a well in the centre here and just pour that in there really quickly. And then a case of just putting the rest in, and you can either do it with your hand or with a big wooden spoon just to get the mixture going. You'll be needing this with your hands, so scrubbed hands to begin with. So what I'm doing now is just putting that mixture in, and the dough will just be just right, ready to knead the mixture. Okay, so I'm just stirring that out there to begin with a big spoon, and then I shall get some flour ready, just a little for the hands and some on the board. And what we'll have to do now is knead this for about 10 to 15 minutes. This is the bit that takes quite a lot of time. So what I'm going to do is just get all of that mixture off that spoon, get some flour on the hands, flour on the board, and just keep working that mixture until it's a very pliable dough. You'll need quite a lot of flour in your hands for this stage. Once you've got it into a pliable dough, just flatten it out and keep folding it over and just knead it with your knuckles like that. Just a case of keep folding, kneading, keep folding and kneading, and you have to do that for 10 to 15 minutes. I've decided now to open something called channel memberships. This is simply for those of you who would like to support the channel a little bit more and perhaps get some little extras that I'll be sharing with you. We have some ideas in store, and so there'll be a few extras there that I'll be sharing with you if you do decide to join. There'll be some early access to recipes and maybe more requests for little things that you want, and individual chats maybe just about cooking in general, and behind the scenes and all the outtakes that happen in this kitchen, and I can assure you there are many. So if that sounds like something you'd like to do and enjoy, you'll see a join button below this video where you can have a look. Once you've got that kneaded for about 10 to 15 minutes, just put it into a bowl and we're going to cover it with cling film and leave it for about an hour and a half. Once this proves, it'll be virtually double its size. So I'm going to leave this. Once your dough has doubled in size, just empty it out onto your tray. Lots of flour. And it doesn't need so much kneading this time. Basically, we're just going to beat it down a few times, because this time we're going to turn it into rolls and leave it for another 45 minutes. So if you're really bothered, you can measure out and weigh each roll so that they're all equal sizes. Or if you're not too bothered about the sizes being different, once you've beaten it down a little while, no more than about 2 or 3 minutes, just pull off a little bit. What you want to do this time is keep turning it into itself so that the top is really smooth. So we're stretching and turning it in like that. And probably about 3 in a row, just give them a little bit of room to expand. Now remember, after 45 minutes, these are going to rise again. But it is worth making the effort to do rolls like this if you're maybe cooking for people or you need lots of rolls rather than going and buying them. They won't last very long because there's absolutely no preservatives or anything in them. Okay, after 15 minutes, I'm going to take them out of the oven. And in true Scottish roll style, you can just break them up and just let them cool.